Hi, my name is Jason Impey and I'm an independent filmmaker, a self-shooting independent filmmaker, and I actually started making films at a very young age, at the age of 10. Basically, I was a young kid and I always used to watch TV and films, and I used to watch a few horror and naughty films for my age. I used to sneak some VHSs out and put them on, get my dad's recordings off the TV, some of the videos in the restricted cabinet, and I always loved films, especially horror, but in general I was just really immersed in film. But my it went deeper than just watching it and enjoying it. I actually found myself thinking about, oh, why was it made like that, or why did they shoot it like that, and I was getting drawn into different styles, and I was appreciating different directors' work, and this led to me wanting to make my own films, and to the point where my dad used to always be into filming family events and doing the home movies and stuff. So he had a camera. He always had cameras, and I grew up, being filmed by my dad and playing about with his camcorders and stuff. So, and then my mum was always kind of into horror, reading Stephen King novels and horror books by James Herbert and stuff. And then my granddad used to actually collect VHS, to be a film collector, and used to go around there every week and watch a film with him. And the combination kind of created me a horror filmmaker. So yeah, I grabbed my dad's camera and I shot a film called Split Second when I was 10. I thought I was making a feature-length movie, but it turned out to be like a 10-minute short. I got my dad to edit it on the VCR, and it was a very good experience. I was actually very disappointed with my first film. I thought it was going to be this like epic great film, and it was crap. But it was a good place to start. So basically, the passion was there. I made another documentary when I was 12, and I knew what I wanted to do. I was fortunate at a young age. I just wanted to be a filmmaker and knew that was something I wanted to do, and had a passion for it. And so I left school and went straight into college to study film, media, TV and all that, and stayed there for many years doing student films, learning the craft, doing film studies and film appreciation, and literally straight from college I was a freelance camera operator and editor, and I've remained working in the film scene ever since. So, so there's a lot of challenges an independent filmmaker faces. The main issue I find is obviously low budgets. Not having a lot of money to make a film causes me all kinds of problems, because it's hard to get locations because a lot of places want money. It's even hard to get cast and crew. A way I've overcome things is I do a lot myself. So I'm fortunate enough that I am able to film and edit and even do some sound and write and direct my own stuff. I literally cover so many of the crew roles myself. That cuts down a lot of people, and I can rely on myself to do it. Locations and other people such as cast and that. Now and again I've been fortunate enough to be able to get a little bit of money raised from investment from friends and family, other places. Sometimes there's been a bit of royalties, dare I say, and other means of getting funding, but it is beg, borrow and steal. I've where I sit now, I have kind of rinsed all my resources to a point. I mean, I've had so many things I've blagged. It's getting harder. I'm actually finding it harder to make a film now than I did years ago. I think sometimes because I've done a fair few films, people expect a bit more luxurious, so they look at IMDb and go, oh, you've done a lot, you must be doing all right for yourself, where's my trailer? There's a bit of that goes on. But having good people around you helps a lot. Being nice and persuasive helps a lot. I'm not the best people person at times. I've had my trial and errors through doing what I do for a living, and it's made me a lot harder, but... But I've worked with some very good people and some producers that are very helpful and nice and good at getting what they want. And if they believe in the project, they pull through. But I honestly do think the biggest challenge faced to an indie filmmaker is just how you're going to make a film with no money. Again, I'm fortunate because of being self-employed and a freelancer in filmmaking. I have my own equipment that I use for jobs, so I don't have to worry about getting equipment. I used to borrow it from the college back when I started out, I used to sign it out, but I don't even believe they let you do that anymore. Saying that, technology's changed so much. You can go and shoot a film on your phone these days. As silly as it sounds, I've done it. It works. The quality's great. How we've changed over the years. So, distribution of indie film is it's a bit of a sore subject to some. So when I started out, the only real thing to do was obviously to get a physical release, a VHS and DVD, now Blu-ray and even 4K coming out. And to really do that, especially for me in the UK, if you wanted to properly release a film, you obviously have to get it BBFC rated. It costs a lot of money to do that. Filmmaking's dear enough as it is at times. It's even more expensive when there's obscene fees to get an 18, 15 or 12 stuck on your film. So I found distribution eventually. It took me a long time sending screeners out to distributors and in talks, because a lot of distributors are funny about releasing indie films because of they don't believe they're going to get a lot back. They don't like to spend money on stuff they don't fully believe in, and you are competing. You shouldn't be, but you are competing against like Hollywood films. I know some people appreciate indie films, but I have had many reviews and people talk to me and they compare my stuff to like blockbusters, which is obscene really, and it does piss me off, but you know, what can you do? But yeah, going back to it, I managed to find some distributors. I've gone through quite a few in my time. Some are good, some are bad. None of them are great. Because, you know, you never really see your money back. I am one of the rare, fortunate people that I have made budgets back, and I've even made a bit of a profit from my films. It's took years, and it's only because I've made a ridiculous amount as well, because I used to be very active when I was younger doing it. I have managed to get most of my things distributed, but times have changed. So I was very pleased that I used to get DVD releases. Mainly in America though, it was mainly the States that released my stuff. The UK's still so hard for me on my own turf to get released. I've had a few now, but it's very minimal. We've managed to get some BBFCs, and it costs hundreds of pounds, which we're still trying to make back. So a lot of my films were released on DVD in the States through mainly online, such as Amazon and places. Sometimes they appeared in stores. I'd get people writing to me saying they'd found my title in there. It's a funny area now. I've noticed this trend of making your own bootlegs and selling your own bootlegs on social networking sites. I actually think that's quite a cool idea. I myself support indie filmmakers and have brought quite a lot of these sort of releases, and I myself have managed to shift some that way, and I really do think it's really nice to get that support and that interaction with fans, and they get kind of cool signed editions and stuff. But the internet's changed things a lot as well, like with VOD and digital releasing. So I now find myself releasing on a number of VOD platforms, including Vimeo, Amazon Video, Real House, and various things. The good thing about digital VOD releasing is there's no real overheads. It's very cheap to do, and you get a lot of money back because you haven't got to pay out for discs and artwork and stuff. But I like collecting physical media, and I know a lot of people that like my films are that same sort of person. They like to physically own a product, they like to physically have the case and extras and that. So I don't mind VOD, but I do think it's not the same as having that cool copy in your hand. But saying that, I've had a lot more success releasing VOD, unfortunately, and with physical media. I do try and do both, and I always push for the physical release. It's really important to me. But it is a lot easier to get a VOD release because you can do it yourself. It's actually made self-distribution so much more possible. People have always gone on to me about you should self-distribute your films. Like when I was younger, I'm like, but you know, getting them all manufactured, and if I had to have ratings done and shipping them off, it was just such a nightmare. Making a film is hard enough as it is, let alone doing that kind of business producing side, which I hate producing, and I'm much more about, like, I like to write a story and direct and bring my vision to life. All the producing is a real headache, which is why I try and collaborate and have people come on board. I do produce my own stuff because I have to, but it isn't because I want to. But you're going back to like distribution, like, so it's made the digital world has made making a film as for an independent person a lot more easier and accessible, but it's a shame how it's all just stuff in clouds and streaming. It's you know, I still do like going to the shops and getting a release. You know, it'd be lovely if I could go down to my local DVD store and see my titles on there, but that's very hard. But you know, always live in hope, always trying. So, over the last, well, making films independently properly for the last 15 years or so there's a lot of memorable experiences. I mean, a lot of funny stuff. You know, like, stories that spring to mind is, so, I was doing a film which starred two guys and they were playing quite nasty hitmen. The film was called Tortured, aka Sex Slave, also was re-edited as Psychopath later on. But the two main guys had like guns and knives and weapons on them, and we were doing very long days. We were doing like 20 hours a day for 5 days straight, and I was killing people. So we'd filmed one big scene and we was moving to a different location. And on the way, I said we'll stop at this fast food restaurant and we'll grab some food to take with us to the next location so they can eat while we prep set up, get all the lights and that ready. And so I just totally forgot that they had their props on them, they had guns strapped to them with holsters and stuff. I took them into the restaurant. One of them really needed the toilet, so he went up there, and they were kind of in character, and they were very tired, and it was all a bit hazy. We were halfway through the shoot, and the guy goes up to the counter, and he's like, where's your toilet? Where's your toilet, man? And these people behind the counter were very like nervy of him because he was like a bit animated and boisterous, and they're like, oh, it's over there, and it was kind of like peak time. It was like 7 in the evening. There was a lot of families. It was a Friday night. There's a lot of families sitting there eating their food. And he went to go to the toilet and he couldn't get through the door. It was a bit jammed for some reason. I don't know what was going on. He come back. He goes, man, where's this toilet? I really need to go. I didn't realise at first, but as he's waving around and pointing, he's displaying to the whole restaurant handguns and knives all strapped to him. And the other guy who stood next to me was trying to order and was leaning over and again was revealing like guns on him and stuff. So I still hadn't noticed, and so the guy behind the counter was like going, oh, the toilet's just there. And I noticed the restaurant was going quite quiet and everyone was sitting looking down and didn't want to look at us. And so I'm ordering thinking, oh, you know, I wasn't really with it. And the guy next to me, the actor, goes, he whispered into me going, I think we better go soon. I've got all my guns on me still, I've just realised. And it dawned on me that these guys have walked into this restaurant all tooled up, so to speak, and I thought, shit, they're going to call the police. The people behind the counter were backing off, they're really scared. They actually gave me my food, so I threw them the money. I went, oh, thanks. The guy came out the toilet, I shoved them in the car, and we flew off so quick and disappeared into the sunset. I've had the police on set many times, unfortunately. For that same film, we were filming a scene at a lay-by on the road. We had 2 cameras, we had a boom in the air, there was assistant directors, people with clipboards. It was very obviously a film shoot. But the 2 guys had a guy and they're punching him on the side of the road. Someone had drove past and reported that someone was getting beaten up GBH. So we had the police turn up and we were just leaving, we'd just finished, and he pulled in and stopped me, and I realised I had a car full of like fake shotguns, blank firing handguns, stuff that I shouldn't really in England have in the car, and I would have got into a lot of trouble for. So I was shitting myself, and I did the old blag, oh, it's a student film, and they must have got confused. Fortunately, they didn't search the car, and we got away with that one. And there's been another feature I did in the woods. In the woods is a location I've used a lot, because it's cheap and free and accessible. But the problem with that as an indie filmmaker, you have to deal with the public. So again, we had an old couple walk past where there was a guy sitting in the boot of the car getting made up. The old lady was coming over to have a little bit of a look. The old man's grabbed her, pulled her, run off. 15 minutes or so later, police vans come flying through the woods. God knows why, what he'd been told, but he'd been told there was something going on. He was really nice and funny, which makes a change. Sometimes you get moody ones, but he was alright. And he's like going, oh, I know a few like zombies. And he let us carry on, which was good. I've had unlucky experiences where another time the police turned up, we were shooting a massive scene on a field and there was a shop nearby. I'd gone to the shop and brought lunch for cast and crew, and we had loads of bags from the shop. Little did I know, about 10 minutes after I'd been in there and got that and took it to the field and was eating, there was an armed robbery in the shop, and they'd run off and stole everything. So the police come walking over the field, and they see us all with all the shopping bags, and they start searching all my kit, ask what we're doing, asking what's in the tripod case, very scaredly, thinking it was like a shotgun. And they slowed us down for a while, but in the end we was able to carry on. But what were the chances of that? And they were very weary about it. They weren't so friendly that time. It's another story that's a bit crazy. Is I was trying to shoot a short horror film. A guy that was acting in it that I collaborated with a lot was dressed as a builder, and he's supposed to fall off a roof and go through the glass. It's all dramatic. So it's a flat roof, and if you jump off it, there was kind of a hill that you could jump onto and roll. So I used to do this a lot when I was younger and a kid. I knew how to do it. I kind of forgot that other people might not be so physical as me, but still, he was a young guy, and I said, all you got to do is jump and roll, and you know, and I did it and showed him that it's possible, and you don't have to hate yourself. And he was getting a bit nervy and worked up about it. I was getting the shot ready and set up. It was just me and him. It was just a little pickup shot. So I started to realise he was a bit nervous, and I was a bit worried actually that thinking about it, this could go wrong. And it was one of the first shots of this film. So I thought, you know what? I'll dress in his outfit and I'll be a stunt double. If I get hurt, it doesn't matter. But he wouldn't have none of that. When I said that, he was like, no. He was a bit like he wanted to do it. If he's in the film, he wants to do all the bits. So I said, well, whatever you do not run and jump and like bomb it. You know, you have to roll. Don't just like throw yourself off the roof really badly. Anyway, I'm not even rolling the bloody camera. He walks all the way back on this roof and he starts running. I was like, no, don't even run. I didn't even get a chance to put the camera on. He jumps like a nutter, flying through the air, like with his doing a bomb as if he would in a swimming pool. And I thought, oh no! And he hit the floor and bounced, flying up, and then just flew off, screaming. And I thought, for fuck's sakes, this is all I need. So I started messing around with the camera to finish setting it up, and I noticed, 5-10 minutes later, he's still just lying on the floor in the distance. And I thought, he was a bit of a diva when he wanted to be. So I thought, oh Jesus Christ, is he just being a pain in the arse? I start walking over there going, right mate, come on, time to get up, stop messing about. Nothing. I thought, oh, fuck me. Walked over there and he's rolled over in agony going, oh I can't stand up my foot. And I was like, oh man. And to be fair, I wasn't really sympathetic at first. I thought he was just being a bit of a dick. So I thought, oh, whatever. I carried on messing around with the camera. He was still there. I'm like, mate. I said, let's have a look then. I went to pull his boot off and he screamed. And I was like, oh, shit, man. He really reckons he couldn't move his foot. So I thought, I'm going to have to take him to the bloody hospital then, ain't I? So I take him to the hospital and he'd actually broke a bone in his foot. But obviously I didn't really want to say what we were doing because it was like a really silly little short film. Which, because of this, I never got to finish. I managed to film a few shots there that day while I was in hospital with another part, but the film remained an unfinished piece to this day. So I cut a rough cut together, but it's missing loads of stuff. So I was dressed all suited up because I was also playing a part in it. Not that I like to do a lot of acting, but I stand in for roles in my own films if there's no other choice. So there's me suited up like his boss, trying to explain to them that he's jumped off a wall with him dressed like a builder. They looked very, very suspiciously at me, and they didn't seem too happy, but he broke a bone in his foot. They had to put a metal rod in there. He had to have a pin. He had to walk on a stick for months afterwards. I felt pretty guilty and bad about that. And he laid it on thick as well. He was like, oh, I'm going to be able to walk properly and get on my foot. He is alright as far as I know. He lived to tell the tale and he's alright, but yeah, I do feel a bit guilty about that, and that was a bit of an unlucky, dramatic situation. So these things do happen. So health and safety, kids, health and safety. And the amount of lights that I've set fire to with gels, and yeah, I'm known for my quality health and safety there. So my personal favourite film project. I really do like my feature film Psychopaths, that edit. I am really, in the end, I'm pleased with it. It took years to do. I had 9 months pre-production. I initially did this week block filming, then some pickups, then like 6 months editing, and over those 4 years I tweaked and made the final definitive cut. The reason I really do like that of mine is that I feel like I achieved what I set out to achieve. I wrote a full script that, if you look at the script and look at the film, it's almost like exactly to the script. I didn't change, I didn't veer off. I managed to get the script I wrote shot, which, you know, is an achievement in itself. And because of the final cut, and I spent years tweaking it, I feel like I got it to what I really wanted to. A really fun, trashy exploitation film. I had a lot of fun doing it at the time, and I think that the fun and enthusiasm that was behind the project shows through on the screen. And it's a real blast to watch. I mean, I get really cringy, and I do hate looking at my own film sometimes, especially with an audience. But I do watch that one, which again I watched recently because I did a special VHS release, and I watched it with my friend who hadn't seen it. And sitting there watching it again on this big screen on a VHS copy, it was holding up, and it was still fun. And I was still laughing myself at some of these gags, and I feel like, you know what, it's still entertaining. And it's still fun, and it's it reminds me of the films and cinema I love. I was selfish. I made a film that I wanted to see, and it's just nice that it has found an audience and has done quite well as well. I mean, it's a bonus that it's one of my most successful films as well. So it's just been a very positive one. Although I do have to look past the fact that half the people involved with it I can't stand. Some of them are psychos, some of them are nutters, some of them are just absolute divas with unbelievable problems, and obviously if you're the director, everything's your problem. I do have to switch myself off from that. It's a horrible thing to look at your film and half the people in it you can't stand, but, you know, you're going to burn bridges as a filmmaker. If I'm honest, filmmaking has cost me a lot of pain as well as passion and fun. You know, I still love filmmaking, and I can't imagine doing anything else. It is a way of life. I live, breathe it. It's a hobby. It's work. It's just everything to me. It's my whole life. But it's cost me a lot of friendships. It's cost me a lot of heartache. It's cost me a lot of money. I've had very dark times. I've nearly been broke and bankrupt from it. I've had absolute fallouts and stress. I've had to get police restraining orders against people because they lose the plot. And it's horrendous. I've had to deal with unbelievably crap feedback and reviews and shit thrown at me, like we all do, but sometimes it all comes at once, and it has sunk me in depressions, and I have become very upset and depressed about it in the past. I've always had a flame burning for filmmaking. It's tried to be blown out many times, and the flame has flickered and been blown on hard, but I've always managed to pull through and carry on, and I will be strong and carry on, but there are dark times as an indie filmmaker for all indie filmmakers, and a lot of the experiences I've gone through, it is good to talk to other filmmakers, and it's not nice for them, but a lot of them have been through similar, and we compare notes, and we've helped one another. It's a nice, small, close community sometimes, but there are a lot of egotistical maniacs out there and bad people, and honestly, some advice is you have to be so careful who you work with. It only takes one bad egg in a group, and I've seen this happen on people's projects. It's happened to mine. You get that one bad person who gets on a project, and it can be a virus and a seed that spreads, and it can shut the project down, or it can make the project hard. It can just cause a lot of money, pain, hassle and heartache for everyone. And sometimes it's people that you think won't do it. I mean, it can be a best friend, it can be a family member. I've known it from all aspects, and I've witnessed it from all. So you just have to be very careful. I used to be very relaxed and easygoing, and I still try to be, but it's hardened me. Years of indie filmmaking has made me a lot harder and a lot more reserved and inwards, and I don't let people get too close now, and I've always got to watch myself, and I hate being a bit selfish, but you have got to watch yourself, think about yourself and the project, because a lot of people give their time for free, or they invest a lot into it, and that's all on you. So if you fuck that film up, you feel like you failed or let them down. So you have to, you know, you've got to try and be strong for the group as well, which can be very, very hard, I must say. Sometimes there's a lot of pressure on you. There's a lot of good times, there's a lot of fun, and there's also dark times. You've got to find the balance of what works for you. So at the moment for me, I've just finished doing a short film, Nightman Mel. I used to do a lot of shorts, tried to do more features, but now it's more accessible to do shorts, because the problem is, when I was making short films, you couldn't really do much with them. You could get the odd festival, but now with VOD, this is one of the positives of it, you can actually release short films, and there's a newer, bigger market and opportunities with shorts. I still try and do features, but features are a lot harder to do than shorts. So I've been doing some short films, the new one, Nightman Mel. I want to do some more features, but I have actually shot a feature-length documentary this year, and I, you know, through meetings and distributors trying to twist my arm, it turns out that they believe that special interest films and documentaries are bigger sellers than indie horrors and stuff, you know. But, so I've ended up shooting a feature-length documentary about the world of fetish, which I'm just currently finishing in post-production, and going to be releasing that. In talks with distributors, also toying whether to do a bit of self-distribution, sign it. What I've been talking about really is finding the right balance of what the best option is for release, because again, I have been stung so many times by distributors. Some of my films have been quite successful on paper, but the royalty check I get is laughable and don't even cover half of the budget that you've spent out of your own pocket on the production in the first place. So, advice that I would offer to up-and-coming filmmakers is don't be afraid to go make your film. There's a lot of people that say they want to make a film, they're going to make a film, and they don't get off their arse and do it. So, I know it's easier said than done, and I've had silly advice given to me when I've had dark times, but if you can honestly just try and kick yourself up the arse to go out and make a film, even if you shoot it on a phone, just find your style and do what works for you. Don't be pressured into, you have to do this, you have to do that. Obviously try not to make rubbish, but there is not always a right or wrong way of doing something, because film is an art form. You know, an artist, you know, has his own vision and does something he wants because he wants and how he sees it. So, as a filmmaker, you're an artist, so you've got to tell the story how you want it to be told. Don't be pressured or dictated to. You're not in Hollywood yet. You're not got a studio agreement down your neck. Be free. I know it can be very hard and you can be very constrained by not having stuff, but that can work, because sometimes you have to think harder or think outside the box or how you're going to achieve that. So use that in your favour to be creative and artistic. And it sounds silly, but just be very careful who you work with. I know it's always nice to get offered help, but just make sure you're working with people that are there because they're into it, they believe in the project, they want to help, and there's not alternative motives, because as I said, it's a very cutthroat world, the old world of filmmaking, and it's just not nice to get hurt. So just be very careful who you work with, and just try and find your own feet and style. Play about. Do a short rather than a feature first. I know people that want to run straight into a feature. Play about of a short film just so you find yourself. And as I said, I know it's hard to sometimes get kit in that. This day and age it is easier, but normally most people do have some kind of phone, smartphone with a video camera on, and that's a good place to start. I said I still mess about myself doing little videos on it. So, you know, use the resources and what is accessible to you, anything you've got around you. And what I'd like to say to supporters of me, fans, followers, or what I've had over the years, is it's just a massive thank you, man. I mean, I have had some great loyal fans and people that have supported all my films, people that buy copies, people that leave me nice reviews. It means a lot. It's that kind of attitude that makes it worth doing. It makes me want to get up and do another film and keep doing stuff that people enjoy or select people enjoy. But it does mean a lot. It makes it so much more worthwhile. I can't express the joys of seeing something positive from what you do received by other people. It really is one of the best things ever. So just a huge thank you, and I actually do honestly appreciate all the support I've had. So thanks again.